Good morning and welcome you all to today's lecture. I'm Dr. Swarna, Assistant Professor of English from IIM PG College, MEERUT. I'm going to discuss somehow difficult but one of the most important topics today, that is linguistics from the paper Linguistics and Phonetics for the students of second sem. But before going to start my lecture, it is important for us to understand the basics of linguistics, what linguistics is. So basically, linguistics is the scientific and systematic study of language. It examines how language is formed, how language is structured, how language is used, how language is learned, and how language is changed over the time period. It also helps us to understand how human beings communicate through language. As we know that language is one of the most powerful or important tools of human communication. Through language, we can express our ideas, our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences, our cultures. Linguistics studies each and every aspect of this human communication or this communication process, from speech, sounds, and word formation to sentence structure and meaning. It also helps us to understand how languages evolved, how languages developed, how children learn languages, how languages change across cultures and society. So we can see that it means, in other words, we can see that linguistics is not limited only to grammar. It also connects with interdisciplinary fields like sociology, psychology, literature, media, and technology. In today's modern world, in today's globalized world, linguistics plays an important role in other areas, in other core areas like language teaching, translation, artificial intelligence, speech therapy, and communication studies. Therefore, the study of linguistics helps us to understand not only language itself, but also help us to understand the whole process of human communication, human behavior, society, and culture as well. So now let's move forward. So today's lecture core ideas which I am going to discuss in today's lecture. We are going to discuss in today's lecture the meaning of linguistics as I have discussed in the previous slide, its characteristics, its branches, its types, its scope, its importance, its historical inquiry, etc. So first we will take the characteristics of linguistics first. So if we talk about the characteristics of linguistics, so one of the most important characteristics here is it is scientific and systematic in nature. The objective study of human language, treating it as a complex and natural phenomenon rather than a loose cultural artifact. It means that linguistics examines language objectively. It doesn't consider personal opinions or perspectives. It is totally based on evidences and systematic method. It examines language through observation, analysis, and research. And language is not random. It follows some rules, system, and structure pattern. And linguistics also examines language rules, pattern systems, because language is functions like a system. It is like a system set of rules, grammar, structure. So it also connects with meaning, sounds, and word formation also. If we talk about the another characteristics of linguistics. That is, it is interdisciplinary in nature because it operates at the intersection of cognitive science, anthropology, sociology, and computer science. As I have said earlier, that it connects with other branches, with other interdisciplinary fields like psychology, sociology, technology, artificial intelligence, computer science, etc. If we move forward, its modality. So if we talk about another characteristic of linguistic is a modality. So it analyzes language across all its manifestation, rigorously studying both spoken phonetics and written symbols. It means it also examines written as well as spoken language as well, and it considers all the languages equally because linguistics doesn't consider one language superior or inferior to another language. It considers all the languages equally. And this is a scope of inquiry, and this is historical inquiry, and these are the famous critics of linguistics like Ferdinand de Saussure and Noam Chomsky, which we are going to discuss in the next slides. So on the basis of these characteristics, we can see that linguistics is descriptive in nature, not prescriptive in nature. Because in descriptive science, linguistic is based on descriptive science, or it is basically descriptive in nature because it observes and analyzes how people actually use language in the real world, in the day-to-day life. On the other hand, it dictates how people should use language based on rigid and formalized rules. It focuses identifying underlying patterns, structural rules, and natural evolution of a language. It enforces correctness and standardization. It values dialects, slang, spoken variation as rich and valid data sets. On the other hand, it often rejects non-standard dialects or colloquialism as errors. It understands the cognitive and societal mechanics of human communication. On the other hand, it maintains a specific historical and standard on written and formal speeches. So on the basis of these characteristics, these features, we can see that linguistics is descriptive in nature. Now, if we talk about the branches of linguistics, it is based on two scales of linguistics inquiry. So basically, the linguistics is having two kinds of linguistics of study, that is core linguistics or interdisciplinary linguistics, or we can say core linguistics or micro-linguistics or theoretical linguistics. On the other hand, we can say interdisciplinary linguistics, macro-linguistics or applied linguistics. So basically, linguistics is divided into two kinds, is divided into two types. So first, we will take micro, or we can say core linguistics, or we can say theoretical linguistics. It focuses on the internal structural architecture of language itself. Like key points are phonemes, morphemes, sentence structure, and literal meaning. And its domain, highly theoretical, focuses on the closed system of linguistic rules. On the other hand, if we talk about applied linguistics or macro linguistics or interdisciplinary linguistics, so it is equally important how language behaves in relation to external environments. And the key units are dialects, neurological processing, historical evolution, and artificial intelligence, and highly applied and exploring language in the wild. These are the theoretical branches of linguistics. So if we talk about the major branches or minor branches of linguistics, the major branches of Theoretical linguistics, or we can say micro-linguistic or core linguistics, are phonetics and phonology. Second is morphology. Third one is syntax. Fourth one is semantics. And fifth one is pragmatics. All the branches are equally important to understand if we want to understand linguistics. So we should have a clear-cut understanding about these branches. So first we will take phonetics and phonology, and the physical, it means it focuses on speech sounds, how these sounds are produced by human beings, how these sounds are transmitted, and how these speech sounds are perceived or understood by the individuals. So we can say that the physical production, transmission, perception, and systematic patterning of human speech sounds is called phonetics or phonology. And second one is morphology. So if we talk about morphology, so it focuses on word formation or words, the internal structure and formation of words from smaller unit morphemes. Example, unhappiness. So we can say this word is made up of two affixes like prefix or suffix. Happy is the root word, un means prefix, ness means suffix. So it is combined together of prefix, root word and suffix. Next is syntax. So it focuses on sentences also. So the grammatical scaffolding, how words combine to form a complex phrase or clauses, because this is a chain. A group of speech sounds makes a letter. A group of letters makes a word. A group of words makes an idiom or phrase. And a group of words makes a sentence. A group of sentence makes a paragraph. And a group of paragraphs make a literary piece or any compact form of language. Next one is semantics. So if we talk about semantics, it focuses on meaning, not on word, not on speech sounds, not on sentence, but it focuses on the meaning or the meaning of sentence or phrase or words. So if we talk about the meaning of word or if we talk about the meaning of sentence, so semantics focuses on this. Semantics, the study of literal meaning embedded with words or phrase or sentences, how sentences are producing meaning, how words are producing meaning. So this is the basically key point of semantics. If we talk about pragmatics, so how environmental context influences interpretations, how meaning is understood, how meaning is perceived, how meaning is produced in the context, in which context it is understood, in which context it is written, in which context it is spoken. So the important here to understand these branches or these branches of linguistics studies. If we talk about, these are the branches here of micro linguistics, and these are the branches of macro linguistics ecosystem here. So if we talk about applied linguistics or macro linguistics or interdisciplinary linguistics, so it connects with interdisciplinary domains and it helps us to understand our language from various perspectives. So if we talk about, this is divided into human mind, society and culture, and time and applications. So if we talk about human mind, so psycholinguistics and neurolinguistics investigate the psychological process enabling language acquisition and the biological basis of language within the brain. If we talk about another branch, that is social linguistics, which is based on society and culture, analyzes the relationship between language and society and encompassing dialects, social variations, and code switching. Third one is historical and applied linguistics, which is based on time and applications, explores how languages change over centuries, applies research to solve problems like teaching, therapy, and translations. So these are the branches of macro linguistics. Another important branch of macro linguistics or applied linguistics is computational linguistics. It is a more trending branch of linguistics in modern world and day-to-day life and the modern in the present scenario. That is computational linguistics. It applies computer technology to model, analyze, and process natural language. It is used in artificial intelligence and voice assistant, machine translation models, large language models, parsing syntax and semantics, and it is natural language. Human language is naturally ambiguous, context-based, and context dependent and reliant on assumed cultural knowledge. It is understood, or the meaning is understood or perceived through cultural context or social context. And in machine processing, computer technology requires discrete, structured, and mathematical inputs through language. If we talk about if we talk about the major concepts and linguistics which help us to understand the linguistics study more deeply, that is, first one is the signifier and signifier. As we have studied in the structuralism theory in English literature, so we can find out these sign, signifier and signified concept there also. So sign, what is sign? Sign is a combination of signifier and signify. So what does it mean? So the signifier, the sound pattern or physical form of word. Any image is having a word, particular sound system, particular sound pattern, or particular word formation for that image or for that word. That is called signifier, like apple. And the meaning, the abstract mental concept or meaning triggered by this sound, by this word, by this image, that is called signifier. And the connection between the sound and the concept is entirely arbitrary, yet it is strictly codified and agreed upon by the linguistic systems. Another important aspect is long and parallel. So the concept of long and parallel was introduced by the father of linguistics, Ferdinand de Saussure, and the concept of competence and performance was introduced by Noam Chomsky. So here, the abstract and perfect system. If we talk about long, the abstract overarching system of language shared by entire community. It is based on languages like a system. It is a system of rules, grammars, pattern, system, structure. So this knowledge is called long, and the actual individual acts, that language is spoken by the individual, and the actual individual acts of speech and specific use of language is communication is called parole. If we talk about competence and performance, so if we talk about competence, somehow similar to long, speakers' ideal internalized subconscious knowledge of grammar and structural rules is called competence. And performance, the real world use of that language, which is often flawed, interrupted, and limited by memory, is called performance. So we can say that modern linguistics universally separates the invisible rule book in the mind from the messy reality of the mouth. Another important concept is here again performance. Performance, as we have already discussed here, the real world use of how we use language in our speaking or in our writing in our day-to-day life, that is important. That is the part of performance according to Norm Chomsky. Performance, what we actually say, the surface output marked by the real word forms of human speech, how we speak the words, how we speak the language, that is important in this concept, that is performance. False starts, memory limitations, pause and slips, all the areas, all the important key points are covered by the performance. If we talk about competence, so we can see here in the in this image that this part is visible and this part is not visible. So it means performance is one of the most important concepts of linguistics. Competence, the vast subconscious knowledge of syntactic rules, phonology, and universal grammar. It is structurally perfect, massive, and invisible to naked eye. So key insights is that linguistics aims to mathematically map the massive submerged structure rather than just cataloging the flawed surface eye. So through this image, we can understand the performance and competence difference easily and clearly. Another important concept is here, synchronic study of language and diachronic study. So what is the main difference between these two studies or these concepts? Synchronic, asynchronic and diachronic. So synchronic focuses on a language system at a specific frozen point in time, completely isolating from historical evolution. It studies language in a particular time period, and it studies the historical development of a language, evolution and mutation of a language system across multiple generations, across the time period or ages. Another concept is dialect, which is based on community, and second is dialect, which is based on individuals. So the main difference is this. If we talk about dialect, which is based on community, so regional and social variations of a language shared by a specific group, complete with unique vocabulary and pronunciation. It is a dialect spoken by the people of a particular specific region or area. And if idiomatic, the complete, unique, distinct, and highly specific linguistic patterns, vocabulary choices, and style belonging to a single individual. So this is the synchronic and diachronic study, means the concepts of linguistics, and the dialect and idiolect concepts of linguistics. What if we talk about from the viewpoint of research? So the active frontiers in linguistic research. So we can say language equation, we can study from the research point of view, language equation, investigating the cognitive mystery of how children initiatively deduce complex grammar and the very pathways adults use to learn secondary language. So we can study, we can research it at this point. Second one is language documentation, the urgent systematic recording and grammatical description of endangered languages before they disappear, preserving vital human cognitive heritage. Another one is charting the subtle shifting regional and social variation of language, mapping precisely how geography and social class impact syntax and phonetics. We can also study stylistics, the rigorous linguistic analysis of the style, tone, and highly specific structural choice within written, signed, and spoken text. So these are the important areas from the research point of view. Now we talk about what is the importance of this linguistics study. Why we need the study of linguistics, the study of a language through systematic and scientific manner. So the utility is here. First, advanced artificial intelligence provide the structure Frameworks necessary for natural language processing, machine learning, and initiative human-computer interaction. So this study is important. Our second one is optimizing language learning. Drives scientifically backed, neurologically proven methodologies for teaching and acquiring new knowledge and new languages effectively. Third one is translating and media. In the area of translation or in the area of media studies, linguistics plays an important role or vital role here. So it powers accurate translation models and deeply informs global media, diplomacy, and communication studies. Fourth one is preserving human cultures. If we want to preserve human culture and heritage, so it is possible through language or through the study of linguistics. Preserving human culture acts as the primary tool for safeguarding indigenous knowledge, cultural narratives, and historical identities. Because if you are going to study a language scientifically or systematically, so we will have to study through its history development. We can study its development, language development, how languages evolve over the time period. Next one is improving communication. If we want to improve our communication, so we need linguistics. Enhancing practical communication skills, negotiation tactics, and clarity across global business. So it is the utility of linguistics here. If we talk about just to revise the process of this linguistics study once again. So this is the process: origin, the mind; origin, competence and noun. The abstract intention is formed using innate universal grammar and community's structural system. We have a language which is a structural system. It likes a structural system. Then formulation, internal architecture. Formulation, internal architecture, microlinguistics, as I have discussed earlier in the previous slides. The brain selects words, semantics, morphology, arranges them, syntax, and assigns sound phonology. A third one is execution, the utterance. When we use language in our day-to-day life, in real world. So the physical act of speaking, the sound wave is produced, phonetics, complete with real word pose and physical errors. Next one is reception. This is the chain, how we produce these sounds, how these are transmitted, and how these are spoken or used in our day-to-day life, and how these sounds or how this language is understood by other people, or understood or heard or perceived or received by other persons. So the listeners interprets the utterance based on social context, social linguistics, and the environmental cues, pragmatics. So as we come to the end of this lecture, so thus we can say that the definitive science of human connections, we can say that linguistics fundamentally transforms our understanding of language from a subconscious daily utility into a mathematically precise, neurologically deeply rooted, and socially complex natural phenomenon. By mapping both the microscopic mechanics of sound and microscopic or macroscopic impact on society, linguistics provides the ultimate blueprint of the most human of all abilities, our capacity to share meaning. So linguistics studies play a vital role in here in modern world, and that's why through linguistics study we can understand the language development, how it takes origin, how it is spoken, how it is perceived through the study of language in a systematic and scientific manner. So it is very, very important, and this is all from my side, and we will meet in the next video on the next topic from the same paper, and that is phonetics. Till goodbye, bye-bye.